Rewinding Christmas. Chapter 1: The Mysterious Gift. The incessant beeping of his alarm clock dragged Jackson out of an otherwise peaceful sleep. He fumbled on his nightstand, eyes still closed, until hitting the snooze button. As he sank back into his pillow for those precious 9 more minutes, his anticipation grew. For today was not just any day, it was Christmas Eve. Despite nearing adulthood at 17, traces of childlike wonder still erupted in Jackson this time of year. He savored the twinkling lights, festive treats, and quality time with family that came with the season. Some of his most magical memories began on this very morning, tiptoeing with his sister Hannah down the stairs before sunrise to sneak a peek at presents under the tree, shaking mystery boxes from Santa to guess their contents, and gorging on his mom's minty hot chocolate. Mom always outdid herself on Christmas, crafting their suburban home into a winter wonderland and the cheer to match. This year, Jackson and Hannah were enlisted as her holiday helpers. For weeks, they enthusiastically fetched boxes brimming with decor from the garage attic and helped perfect plans for tomorrow's celebration with visiting relatives. Even his ever-busy accountant dad caught flashes of Christmas spirit when unpacking Mom's hand-selected mug set for him, bearing cartoon characters from his favorite childhood movie, and giving her a tender kiss. A few sprinkles of cynicism naturally seeped in for Jackson with the passage from childhood, and more activities competing for his time like basketball practice or video games. But all in all, Christmas still held a special capacity for wonder unmatched the rest of the year. The snooze button's alarm struck up again, interrupting Jackson's nostalgic replay of Christmases past. As his eyes fluttered open, they fixed upon one detail that shattered his morning's normalcy: a softly gleaming box at the foot of his bed wrapped in red paper and ribbons, about the size of a hardcover book. He shot up, immediately intrigued. His family always opened just one present on Christmas Eve night, not the morning. And with the unmistakable wrapping style of their mother, who had left this mystery gift here. Jackson scanned his room, as if half expecting to catch the gift lever red-handed. But he found only his familiar furnishings and the faint glow of sunrise outside the frost-laced window. He reached for the gift box, lightweight, but with some contents shifting inside. It bore no tag, just a folded note card taped on top with his name handwritten in an elegant cursive script: Jackson. He carefully opened the envelope, which read, "Jackson, a second chance makes the present a gift. May this help you cherish each moment." Oh, okay. Jackson muttered. He had no clue who wrote this cryptic message or why anyone would leave a random present anonymously. His first thought was perhaps his parents trying something new to surprise the kids. But neither of them had writing this elegant. Hannah was too impatient for this cloak-and-dagger stuff. And he doubted even his closest friends would sneak into his bedroom while he slept to secretly deliver a gift. Baffled but intrigued, he delicately pulled at the shiny red wrapping ribbons until one came undone with a satisfying curl. As he tore back the paper, he discovered a nondescript gray box. Lifting its lid revealed a wristwatch. A peculiar choice for sure, since Jackson already owned a trendy smartwatch. But the style of this old-fashioned watch resonated, a round brass case engraved with symbols unlike any alphabet Jackson recognized. The white watch face had traditional hourly marks, golden hands, and a small rectangular window just below the 12 which oddly displayed no date or number. 3 buttons lined the right edge, while the left side contained a tiny lever reminiscent of vintage wind-up watches. A rich brown leather band cradled the mysterious timepiece, which looked and felt simultaneously archaic yet timeless. Lifting the watch from its box, Jackson noticed it had an unexpected weight and temperature, dense and almost warm to the touch. Curious what metal conducted such subtle heat without any power source, he turned it over seeking manufacturer stamps. But instead, the back casing revealed more of the odd engraved symbols alongside a message. "I was crafted to show time is our most precious gift. Cherish each moment before it flees our grasp. Use me wisely. Now utterly baffled at this bizarre gift, Jackson fastened the band around his left wrist despite his better judgment. He pressed the upper right button, but surprisingly the hands did not start counting seconds as expected. The small rectangular window remained blank. He tried the lower right button to no effect. Testing the lever made the longest hand twitch ever so slightly. But the odd watch seemed broken or incomplete. Just then, Jackson heard a knock on his bedroom door. His mom, Alicia, cheerily called in, "Tomato, rise and shine." Before he could react, the door cracked open and Alicia breezed halfway into his room with a laundry basket propped on her hip. "Jackson, I wanted to grab your dirty clothes before laundry and, oh." She stopped abruptly, eyeing the scene of disheveled wrapping paper and mystery box on her son's bed with the foreign wristwatch now affixed on his arm. One eyebrow raised, she asked, "What do we have here, a secret Christmas morning already?" Jackson held up his wrist. "I honestly have no idea, Mom. I woke up and this gift was just sitting here. No clue who left it or what these symbols mean or why a broken watch." He rambled through recounting the strange gift and message until Alicia laughed and touched his shoulder reassuringly. "Well, isn't that intriguing? I'm sure we'll get to the bottom of this watch puzzle, but no time to waste now if we want everything ready for the Wilkersons' arrival tonight. Your room to tidy, your dad's wrapping paper mess to tackle downstairs, oh, and don't let me forget that dose of anxiety medication for your Aunt Gertrude once she starts critiquing my cooking." Jackson chuckled. His aunt's holiday frazzlement was legendary among his mom's family. As Alicia scooped up an armful of laundry, Jackson remembered her own rare moments of getting flustered amidst party preparations. An inexplainable instinct rose in him, a desire to help minimize any stress that might surface for his mom today. This became his singular goal, though he knew not yet how. After seeing his mom off in a flutter, Jackson examined the watch once more with this thought in mind. "I was crafted to show time is our most precious gift," echoed again in his mind. What an incredibly odd and random object to find this morning, unless somehow, it was exactly what he needed to make the day special for his family. He closed his eyes, took a deep breath, and concentrated deeply on the watch with sheer willpower. "I wish for time to get today perfectly right." Hearing his mom call for him again from the hallway, he opened his eyes to the watch face which now blinked 11:34 a.m. at him in bright numbers. Odd indeed, for Jackson was certain it had read only 7:22 a.m. just seconds ago. Chapter 2, Turning Back Time. Jackson froze, blinking at the watch face now displaying a glaring 11:34 in the rectangular window below the 12. Either the strange timepiece had malfunctioned, or it had just leapt forward by over 4 hours on his wrist. The latter seemed impossible. Though hadn't logic already flown out the window with the watch mysteriously appearing and no batteries powering its functionality? Jackson sprung up and crossed to his bedroom door. Swinging it open, he peered into the now empty hallway. If the watch somehow willed itself 4 hours into the future, perhaps time itself had moved ahead. But approaching the staircase, Jackson spotted details anchoring him squarely in the current hour of 7 a.m. Hannah's pajamas laid out for school over the bathroom door handle, Dad's unpacked work briefcase by the garage steps, the aroma of waffle batter from the kitchen. Nothing aligned with the watch reading of almost noon. Could the timepiece have reset time instead of progressing it? But to what end? Stepping tentatively downstairs into the more frenetic morning energy, Jackson aimed for inconspicuousness in his state of bewilderment. He wandered towards the kitchen's clatter and found his mom assembling a tray of Christmas tree-shaped waffles, an annual tradition. Hannah sat at the counter by his dad, Terrence, deeply engrossed in her phone. Jackson felt his watch vibrating almost imperceptibly on his wrist, as if responding to this familiar scene unfolding before him. "Morning, sleepyhead, I thought you got lost on the way down," chuckled his dad. "Oh, tree waffles," he beamed like a child as Alicia brought the tray to the counter. She smiled, adoring how her food craft nostalgia transported her proper accountant husband to childhood whimsies. Jackson stared around the kitchen, trying to reconcile this perfect ordinary breakfast scene with the fact that mere minutes ago, his bedroom clock and watch both registered more than 4 hours later at 11:30 a.m. That indelible digital readout from the watch was so vivid in his mind. He glanced down to find it once again showed 7:22 a.m., matching all the other clocks in the warm, waffle-scented kitchen. Jackson felt grateful for the calm and connection of his family against this seemingly glitched morning. As he took a few bites of waffles adorned in powdered sugar, snow, no one seemed to register anything amiss or different about him. But internally, his mind swirled like a blizzard with the uncanny sense he was reliving the earlier morning. Had he dreamt the strangeness with the watch? Or, by some wizardry he couldn't grasp, was he getting a do-over of the previous hours? If so, how and why? His family laughed and chatted around him as usual, oblivious to both the temporal conundrum brewing in Jackson's mind and the watch whose two hands now spun backwards like rewinding a video. The bizarre reversed spin lasted only seconds before the watch resumed normal time again. In that sliver of backwards motion, some insight crystallized for Jackson. The mysterious watch didn't display time, it controlled time. He now recalled the cryptic note left with it: "A second chance makes the present a gift." Was this watch a tool to access redos? An opportunity catalyst? What had he wished for upstairs while pressing it earlier, getting today perfectly right? If this watch somehow granted that wish by unlocking the ability to roll back and replay moments until they met his hopes, the possibilities dawned on him excitingly. After wolfing down Alicia's waffle finale of red and green sprinkles with fresh whipped cream, Jackson asked to be excused from the table. His family's chatter continued, blending with a carol streaming from the patio speakers, while Jackson strode pensively to the den. He had seen his dad emerge from there already stressed about unfinished work reports. If Terrence remained locked in that New Year's-bound pressure now, it could distract him from celebrating later. Jackson knew he had to intervene and restore his dad's vacation mentality sooner this round. Grabbing wrapping paper rolls, Jackson headed purposefully towards the den in his test reunion with the recent past. He wasn't fully sure yet how to trigger the watch's temporal trick, but he closed his eyes and envisioned rewinding 15 minutes to shift this pivotal scene. When his eyes reopened, his dad sat at the computer rubbing his forehead exactly as Jackson envisioned. His skin prickled with excitement realizing it worked. The watch whisked him 15 minutes back. "Knock knock, sorry to interrupt Dad, but we gotta wrap these gifts pronto," Jackson announced breezily, lifting the rolls. "Mom's orders so they're ready to go under the tree before caroling tonight." Terrence looked up distractedly from his report analysis. "Oh right, presents, I got sidetracked trying to process these fourth quarter numbers." "No excuses. Santa doesn't care about sales margins," Jackson joked, closing his dad's laptop and pushing the wrapping paper towards him with pretend sternness. Then he softened. "Dad, this is our family time, work will keep, let's deck some halls." Terrence laughed, surrendering to his son's antics and the truth lurking beneath them. "You make an excellent point, Jackson. Lead the way." Jackson grinned, knowing he steered his workaholic father properly back into vacation mode. As they rapped and bantered about gift ideas, Jackson reveled privately that the bizarre watch truly allowed him to pinpoint and adjust moments in time that veered unwanted directions. The question now was how else to harness this unbelievable gift on the most hectic day of the year. Several hours later, into the thick of Christmas Eve party preparations, tensions indeed began bubbling up in the worst of ways. Aunt Gertrude arrived, critiquing everything her sister Alicia did per family custom. But her complaints came nastier than usual after discovering en route that her ex got engaged. Even mild-mannered Terence snapped when Alicia served slightly burned appetizers. Hannah stomped off from porch decorating frustrated after dropping her carefully painted ornaments. Only Jackson seemed immune to the growing angst, periodically fiddling with the watch whenever squabbles erupted. Initially, he rewound in small increments and tweaked his own responses to soothe ruffled feathers. A well-timed joke eased Terence and Hannah. By distracting Aunt Gertrude into the pantry for her anxiety meds right when Alicia dished food, 2 meltdowns were averted. Each revision felt exciting, like the director of a play fine-tuning scenes until perfectly harmonious. But the more Jackson revised, the more ambitious he got. Soon he made leaping rewinds when conversations spiraled, erasing entire clashes. Though still suspicious of how the device worked, he cared more that it did work undeniably. 2 hours until the extended Wilkerson's arrival, Jackson grew convinced this day would shine as the family's most memorable and magical Christmas with his temporal touch-ups. Until everything tanked unexpectedly from Jackson's next huge rewind gamble. When his youngest rambunctious cousin spilled eggnog climbing up to peek at gifts, Jackson immediately spun back the watch an hour in hopes of tweaking the scene entirely. He rerouted his aunt mid-gossip to delay her arrival before drink distribution. But the unintended consequence was she arrived later already worked up from traffic, berating Alicia's appetizers before a single beverage spilled. Soon adults bickered about politics, distracting Hannah again on ornament duty. As Terence vanished downstairs to take an agitated work call, Jackson froze in dismay. This revised hour had backfired terribly. Panicked as tensions mounted, he kept rewinding trying to find the fracture point where the day unraveled. But increasingly in each reset slice of time, fresh unintended conflicts erupted while resolved ones resurrected again like a game of temporal whack-a-mole. With the main guest's arrival imminent, Jackson retreated to his room with barely any parting words to anchor another rewind. This would be his biggest leap yet, back 3 hours to undo the bulk of the unraveling. Chapter 3, A Chance for Perfection. Jackson paced his bedroom, grasping the watch in both hands. How had his precise temporal tweaks spiraled so dramatically into familial chaos? The day was now careening wildly beyond his control from actions that first aimed to improve it. His fingers traced the watch's strange symbols, desperate for a way to freeze the collisions and wound tension threatening to sabotage the long-awaited Christmas Eve celebrations. When his eyes squeezed shut this time concentrating deeply, Jackson didn't merely wish to spin time back again. He focused intently on returning to the spot where perfection still felt possible, back to the cheery kitchen scene with his family before tensions mounted. He visualized his mom's waffle tray adorned fancily, his dad humming carols, his sister blissfully scrolling her phone over hot chocolate. Holding tight to the sensorial details, Jackson felt a blast of lightheadedness. Suddenly, the kitchen's maple and cinnamon scents surrounded him again. Opening his eyes, he saw his family right where he last left them this morning. Jackson sighed, relief spreading through him. It worked again. Here he stood over 3 hours earlier, gifted yet another fresh launch of Christmas Eve. His deepest instincts warned that abusing unpredictable time magic was playing with fire. But stronger still was his conviction that this watch granted him power to remove any thorns in his family's celebration path. Was that not a noble wish, salvaging everyone's happiness today? Invigorated with this reset slate, Jackson vowed to approach it more skillfully. He would sculpt gently rather than forcefully, careful not to oversteer outcomes too far astray from their natural course. As his family laughed over waffles again, Jackson tuned his senses to the dynamics and mood. When little moments of friction sparked, he would wipe them away like erasing a blackboard. Smoothly, surgically, just enough for positive momentum to gather. With his family none the wiser, he would lay the foundation for a Christmas Eve of literally magical perfection. Over the next hours, Jackson moved seamlessly through replays of replays, continually fine-tuning the scenes around him. When Aunt Gertrude called Alicia's appetizers too salty, he covertly added touches more lemon juice as she cooked, so when Gertrude later tasted them, she raved delightedly. When his rambunctious young cousin spilled apple cider reaching for cookies, Jackson froze time instantly with the watch to grab extra napkins to pad the fall. Each time tensions began brewing or plans going sideways, the strange watch delivered a ready reset button from Jackson's wrist, his quick reward for noticing potential pivots. True, he created whole portions of conversations that never happened, redirects in action before mishap struck to replace them with smoothness. But no one ever seemed the wiser in the resets of timelines that dissolved away. He grew adept at keeping the watch inconspicuous, fiddling with it casually in his pocket before rewinding scenes little by little. With each successful twist of time, Jackson's confidence mounted along with obsession over the illusion of perfection. By mid-afternoon, Jackson was outright reveling in his clandestine role, engineering the family's unfolding celebrations with precision. When conversations hit lulls, he drew out stories prompting hearty laughter. If plans pivoted or dragged, he inserted momentum before frustration set in. Holiday music filled rooms before people even realized they wanted it. He hovered constantly, ever tamping down imperfections, ensuring interactions stayed cheerful. He even masterfully convinced his dad to sneak everyone the hottest new gadgets as gifts which had eluded stock. Eventually, the bulk of party prep concluded beautifully on the schedule Jackson so artfully kept, just as the long-awaited Wilkerson's arrival drew imminently close. As Aunt Gertrude offered her first compliment at Alicia ought to open a bakery based on a cookie recipe Jackson inspired her to location earlier that afternoon, a surge of satisfaction flushed through him. Perhaps no one but Jackson would ever comprehend just how much meticulous stitching and mastery of time wove into this pristine moment of family warmth on display. But seeing his relatives so blissfully lost in connection and cheer reflecting back at him sparkled the perfect early Christmas gift, one he alone fashioned for them. "You've hardly left that spot in hours, lost in your own little world," Aunt Gertrude teased, rousing Jackson from his self-congratulatory days as she entered the living room. "Now be a good nephew and help me grab extra wine. Glasses before our guests descend. I swear Alicia rearranges her cabinets weekly just to torment me." "Of course, lead the way," Jackson obliged politely, still gliding a bit in his secretly omnipotent role. As he crossed towards the kitchen, the crunch of tires on gravel outside signaled the Wilkersons' crowded van arriving fashionably early. But Jackson felt only cool confidence now in his capacity to receive them flawlessly. Until Hizzy's Hannah came bursting unexpectedly through the front door, eyes pooling with tears just as Jackson reached to pull wine glasses for Aunt Gertrude. "Jack! I was lighting the luminaires and dropped Mom's favorite one shaped like a poinsettia and it smashed all over." Hannah managed to wail before dissolving again into sobs. Jackson froze, the sound of the glass in his hand hitting floor tiles punctuating his dismay far better than words. He had grown so enamored playing puppet master, mobilizing perfect family interactions, that he utterly neglected contingencies. Now the sound of greetings and chaos carrying from outside between arriving guests and hosts portended the first true threat to the smooth evening he so painstakingly engineered. Bending to start cleaning glass, Jackson's mind raced with whether to intervene or let natural reactions unfold. Sweet Hannah was inconsolable over her accident while the adults outside chattered obliviously, too distracted herding overexcited young cousins. With no one inside to comfort Hannah, Jackson abandoned the glass and crossed over to envelop his sister in a hug. As she cried, he soothed gently, Hey, it was just an accident, we all mess up. Sometimes. I'll help fix this, okay?" The irony cut deep given fixing things fueled his day's obsessive quest. But seeing Hannah's anguish at her simple mistake clarified no magic could shield them from life's imperfections. Perhaps something beyond his grasp was trying to teach the limits of controlling even Christmas. Chapter 4: Unforeseen Consequences. Jackson knelt silently gathering shards of the shattered luminaire amidst the whirlwind of arriving family now noisily greeting each other in the next room. Hannah had finally stopped crying once he hugged her, though she still sulked off too embarrassed to face the guests. His own stabs of guilt surprised him. It was just a damaged decoration after all. Easily replaceable. But something in seeing his sister's oversized reaction hinted at a fraying in reality he alone perceived after repeatedly reworking it. The luminary shards felt extra sharp when deposited in the waste bin, jolting Jackson back to the risks at hand. He had reveled all day in covertly removing life's little worries to pave an ideal Christmas Eve celebration. But that power clearly came with a cost, namely, separating himself emotionally from what brought meaning to this holiday beyond flawlessness. Connections. Traditions. Surprises. He had tampered blindly with forces beyond his comprehension, too intoxicated by control to foresee repercussions. But Hannah's suffering exposed his blind spots. Rushing now to finish setting the foyer and receiving the influx of guests, Jackson resolved to shift approach going forward. No more playing puppeteer pulling strings of time. To choreograph some vapid production. He would stand down his manipulations that clearly backfired, instead turning focus towards caring for those he loved so much that he lost objectivity chasing perfection for them. If consequences lurked ahead from his temporal tampering, at least connecting genuinely again could help strengthen bonds to weather whatever storms brewed. Soon Jackson was warmly embracing his Uncle Jonas, Aunt Melinda and trio of younger cousins who comprised the Wilkerson side guest list. They were Alicia's more informal kin, the loudly fun-loving siblings to her posher older sisters, Gertrude and the just-arrived Francine. As everyone shuffled to occupy scattered living spaces amidst delighted early gift reveals, well wishes, and debates over taking family photos before dinner, Jackson felt himself relax slightly. These gatherings had always overflowed with joyful chaos that worked itself out organically. He resolved to let the social dynamics play out naturally now, and immerse fully present rather than compulsively editing the moments. Yet as he floated between rooms soaking in scenes, Jackson felt increasingly unsettled by a creeping sense of wrongness. Something in the family dynamics and mood seemed shifted, lurking troubles barely below the surface of all the cheer he had earlier plastered so methodically into place. Had his oversteering caused undercurrents among loved ones that worsened in ways he couldn't pinpoint when unwinding and rewinding time so cavalierly? When Francine asked about displaying the cherished vintage ornaments collection, Terence couldn't find the precious box Jackson convinced him to relocate earlier to thwart his work distractions. His flustered search escalated tensions until Alicia insisted the holiday magic would remain without every decoration on show. Aunt Gertrude muttered about imperfect hosting as she so often passive-aggressively did, but her words oddly stung more pointedly than usual. Jonas tried uplifting everyone's spirits with the irreverent humor that tended to split crowds by generation, but the reaction trended negative once Jackson's teenage cousins caught whiff that something had their parents out of sorts. Attempting to dodge the growing dysfunction, Jackson offered to help Hannah set the dinner table. But even his high-achieving little sister seemed more defeated than usual in her perfectionism about napkin folds and candle placements. When her frustration erupted into shouting at their rambunctious cousins to stop grabbing food early, the normally patient Aunt Melinda reprimanded Hannah like Jackson had never witnessed. His parents jumped to defend Hannah, but Melinda doubled down indignantly. Before long, even easygoing Uncle Jonas got dragged into the familial fray until everyone argued loudly, all over what should have been a casual Christmas meal. Utterly dumbfounded, Jackson slinked upstairs feeling sick. Something was very wrong here. He reviewed the untarnished memories of holidays past. No precedent existed for the sudden clash of tensions. For all their eccentricities, both sides of extended family typically harmonized through common love and memories. Unless Jackson froze in revelation mid-stride. Memories. He had stolen subtle but vital shared memories by rewriting so much of today. Hours of inside jokes, silly mishaps turned bonding wins, private kindnesses and conversations. He erased all those failing to preserve the precious emotional glue between loved ones made them all more strangers. Panic flooded Jackson as the weight of unintended harm crushed down fully. He barricaded himself in his bedroom, gripped by the horrific recognition that in chasing superficial perfection, he dismantled the very connections most meaningful to him. Now halfway through Christmas Eve, the family dynamics were damaged, with tension bred by detachment, not conflict itself. Time offered no true reset now to erase the alienation he spawned. Their shared store of festive memories would remain forever fractured. Ironically, the watch in Jackson's pocket offered no appeal or aid anymore in the cold reality crashing down. Its power promised control over curling cracks in holiday cheer. Yet leaning too heavily upon that power was precisely why all the most precious things now slipped beyond Jackson's grasp. Chapter 5: Fraying Reality. Jackson paced his bedroom clutching the strange watch, his mind racing to understand how its power warped from gift to curse. When it first landed in his lap this morning, the ability to erase life's little worries by rewinding time felt like blind luck to guarantee his family's perfect Christmas. But the more Jackson edited reality according to his narrow vision of ideal, the further he steered loved ones into detachment and discord. Now the dazzling day he meticulously built lay exposed as a hollow facade, with strained relationships and disappeared beloved objects replacing the real-life fabric of family memories he took for granted. The watch's magic became an addictive illusion, distracting Jackson from Christmas' true gifts, togetherness and love unconditionally. Glancing at the watch's inscrutable symbols, Jackson's earlier awe mutated into anger. This wizardry sold him false promises, only to rob precious reality once taken for granted. He considered smashing the deceptive timepiece. But an inner voice echoed that destroying the watch couldn't undo the damage done. Its powers exceeded his human comprehension, he abused them foolishly, yet still did not understand their limits. Perhaps more dangers lurked ahead still. Overwhelmed by the gravity of his choices, Jackson desperately wished to confide in someone. But the shocking truth was implausible even for his closest confidants. Admitting what supernatural role he played in familial tensions escalating tonight seemed unthinkable when even Jackson barely believed it. None would grasp how severely he gambled with the fabric of reality, that somewhere in endlessly unfurling timelines, precious moments were blinking out of existence thanks to his carelessness. Each treasured minute was irretrievable, like wishes disappearing into the winter darkness outside his bedroom window now matching his mood. Voices floated upstairs from the tense family dinner Jackson slipped away from, jolting him back into the awkward present reality he created. Bracing himself, he descended slowly to rejoin the fray and lean on innate holiday cheer to smooth things over. But nearing the dining room's clatter, Jackson felt an intense head rush hitting him like vertigo. Gripping the banister, he suddenly saw ghostly flickers of familiar Christmas ornaments glittering brightly across the foyer archway before dissolving again. Impossible, those were the treasured vintage bulbs stored in the box his dad couldn't find earlier after Jackson convinced him to move it from the attic. Except Jackson watched the ephemeral vision of that beloved decor box passing before his eyes now. The vertigo intensified until Jackson had to shut his eyes, whereupon the odd vision evaporated. Equally strange was the foyer below, now appearing oddly plain and missing its usual holiday splendor that Mom always started meticulously crafting back in November. Had new minimalism taken over her decor approach amidst the day's tensions? Seeking clues, Jackson circumnavigated the dining room where the family ate, giving it wide berth to avoid quarterbacking more interactions. But strangely, he overheard none of the bickering that dominated before he left. Instead, comfortable chatter filled the air along with praise for Aunt Francine's famous pecan pie. His mom's laughter pealed out warmly as it always did on holidays leading up to her signature toast. Uncle Jonas could be heard recounting a funny Christmas gift story from childhood that everyone ritualistically begged to hear again each year. Relief flooded Jackson at the sounds of cheer finally flooding the room. Perhaps the tensions from earlier melted away on their own, just as season's greetings often had a knack for. Jackson. Earth to Jackson. Aunt Gertrude's voice pierced his consciousness. He wheeled around to see her clutching a half-eaten plate of pie behind him with a confused expression. Clearly you're off in another orbit, but we're about to exchange gifts in here if you want to join. Oh, coming. Jackson replied, feeling equally disoriented. He peered again towards the dining room where sounds of conviviality continued, no sign remaining of whatever friction or vertigo fog just enveloped him. Had that entire stretch of strained relations and visions been his imagination? Some bizarre daydream? It felt so vividly real, but now hope rose at the prospect of celebrations finding their footing again. Aunt Gertrude just smirked as she sauntered off. That boy and his imagination took him to the North Pole. She remarked jokingly to the others. Jackson followed behind, comforted by the reassuring sense of holiday cheer hanging over the room that he may have falsely worried into jeopardy earlier. Seeing his family immersed in familiar rituals without him, Jackson promised himself to simply join gratefully in the blessings already at hand rather than micromanaging their destruction. But when Jackson went towards the seat saved for him, fresh hallucinations assaulted his senses before he even sat down, the mysterious watch in his pocket blazing hotter than ever. This time, ghostly visions flooded his sightline of the many alternate scenes from today that he had raised and erased with time rewinds. Fluxes of Aunt Gertrude critiquing appetizers, his enthusiastic dad revealing elaborate hidden gifts that never actually manifested, Hannah in tearful meltdowns over smashed bulbs from trees that now stood perfectly adorned. He doubled over nauseous from the experiential whiplash until Aunt Francine shook his shoulder looking truly alarmed. "Jackson dear, you look white as a ghost. Are you all right?" she exclaimed. As Jackson nodded unconvincingly, grasping for mental footing, Francine placed her palm on his forehead checking temperature. But quickly she pulled it back with a start, casting a strange wary look his direction. It's as if you're almost not fully here." Like trying to touch a hologram flickering, she remarked with genuine confusion. Jackson staggered backwards, pushing past relatives to flee as their voices shouted after him now in concern. Normally Francine's theatrical superstitions inspired eye rolls, not eerie accuracy. But her chilling observation verbalized Jackson's creeping fear since dinner's start, that with all the tampering with time, he himself was losing substance alongside worn family memories. That the longer he lingered out of sync and out of touch with what was real, the more he faded into the ghost of Christmas never meant to be. Chapter 6: The True Meaning of Christmas. Jackson burst out the front door into the brisk Christmas Eve night, desperately gulping the icy air as if each breath might anchor him more fully to reality. The concerned cries of family echoed from inside where he fled their rising alarm at his sudden sickly appearance. Out here in the quiet winter darkness, his vertigo slowly steadied and visions ebbed away. But Jackson still reeled imagining beloved Aunt Francine struggling to even see him. Somehow, as if he faded ghost-like from meddling too long outside lived experience. The watch burned feverishly in his pocket still, its power source of Jackson's obsessive focus further exhausted. Glancing at the happy household bustling inside, he now grasped the awful truth. In foolishly chasing perfection by pruning back any flaws, he robbed this day of real meaning accountable to no one's airbrushed fantasies. Priceless was the family messy and unchecked by external shoulds, talks meandering honest pathways, meals memorably imperfect, traditions welded by work, not magic, bonds deepened through patience, not control. Jackson saw now that blurring away life's humble, silly, accidental minutes stealing their beauty and function as adhesive between loved ones. He betrayed what Christmas stood for: intimacy, wonder, grace flowing freely without agenda. Fantasy could never replace the exceptional reality of ordinary moments unfolding as they should. Facing the damage done, estrangement eclipsing closeness, trust wilting from false projection, Jackson finally felt maturity beyond years to stop tampering with timelines to satiate his vision. If turning power over this day, perfect, meant hijacking family members' agency and erasing authentic memories binding them, the cost grew too severe now in strained connections. However alluring, his role as flaw fixer benefited no one, and likely hurt all by separating them from grounded experiences they yearned to share. Jackson knew nothing could fully restore what his manipulation stole, erased across the eternities in ripples. But perhaps a total reset could halt worse unraveling and give family the simplest Christmas they deserved. He dreaded permanently losing this day's earlier perfection, his prize crafted so lovingly for them. Yet relating honestly held far greater value to heal and strengthen family moving forward than superficial things omnipotently manufactured and prized only by him. If that meant the watch's magic vanished from his life, so reality reigns, that ultimate gift of freedom and presence awaited under the tree now illuminated beautifully inside. With mature clarity, Jackson understood wishing this day perfect was but a childish denial of life's inherent messiness. By controlling everything to satiate his idealized dreaming, those he loved most lost touch with their spontaneous selves and true connections. There were no time machines granting do-overs without casualties, especially stolen from innocent family whose memories shaped their realities. Cherishing meant embracing imperfections, guiding gently not forcing. For all its magical empowerment, the ticking watch stole far beyond it gave this Christmas. Ironically, in aiming to perfect this landmark family celebration, Jackson now saw he robbed it instead of love's greatest treasures, warmth, understanding, delight in their quirks, inside jokes earning their place organically. None required his editing or approval. Simply being together on this night meant more than appearances, just as Christmas magic sparked mysteriously in moments unorchestrated. If turning back time for a total reset could clear damage done and restore authentic holiday spirit, Jackson knew he must try despite losing his perceived control. After all he endured by that siren watch luring him astray, its hardest lesson shone clear: holding his family and their memories too tightly out of protectiveness lost them instead. He must let realities simply be without self-focused quests for perfection. As Jackson now reached gingerly to press the watch with clear conviction towards resetting time's course, he felt touch against his shoulder and turned quickly to see who followed him outside. But strangely no one visible greeted him on the crisp, quiet night. Yet slowly Jackson sensed a presence trying to manifest just beyond his vision, yet so familiar. He looked upwards through the darkness and suddenly beheld the faintest outline of a gentle-faced woman long past but forever etched in family history. The apparition shone barely perceptibly, yet Jackson instantly recognized his grandmother, who always lovingly orchestrated holidays of childhood magic now lost to time forever in her passing decade ago. In his astonishment, Jackson scarcely breathed, watching her smiling down and realizing she left the mysterious watch bestowing power to reclaim her role. But its unintended gift became showing limitations on chasing perfect fantasy. Versions of profoundly human experiences. As quickly as she appeared, his grandmother slowly faded into starry blackness with a knowing look that said, "Home is where they have to take you in." Jackson knew now why the watch appeared, not some ticket to temporal omnipotence without consequences, but a mirror to expose how love sometimes in trying to craft perfect scenarios for others, we rob them of life's messy potency. In frantically chasing superficial happiness divorced from meaning, he ignored Christmas' truer magical source always under their roof. Now fully grasping the lesson, Jackson stood ready to reset time's distorted flow and meet this day with wabi-sabi embrace rather than commanding hands. If this required the watch disappearing like his grandmother's ephemeral visit, destiny awaited inside instead. For within imperfection, beauty shone brightest of all when they created it together. Chapter 7: The Final Loop. Reeling from the vivid vision of his late grandmother visiting in apparition to guide him, Jackson knew only one path forward now with utmost clarity. This beloved familial holiday required total resetting, back to grounded truth instead of his manufactured fantasy of perfection festering quietly into pain. If that meant abandoning manufactured happy scenes that brought hollowness seeping into real relationships, so be it. For connection transcended appearances primped by him alone, and Christmas purpose relied on embracing together whatever shaped them most authentically, beyond pretense. With trembling hope that time's distortion grew not yet beyond all repair, Jackson slowly raised the mysterious watch that set events spiraling from loving intention into folly by granting godlike dominion none should ever harness over others' realities. But he himself remained realist consequence, potentially erased too from timeline's correction, or families' memories fogged to erase distance driven between them by his editorial meddling into their emotional world. His hand quivered thinking of rediscovered notes, shared giggles, and in-jokes fleeing reality's record forever as timelines reset into faultless form, dynamics still fully known only to the hybrid memories in Jackson's mind. This moment called for selflessness and courage to turn back the clock even further, releasing all manipulated moments forever if it allowed authentic ones to write themselves again. Family deserved that even if Jackson's own memories stained solitary by involvement expunged in their restored world. He knew risky gambles require not just bold moves reversing damage done, but surrendering redeeming reality already desperately shaped as one's own. With breath abated but conscience clear, Jackson double-clicked the watch to activate maximum rewind, praying silently it held enough residual magic to wink him far out of the fractured familial dreamscape he created and land their timeline back into sync. Feelings flashed through him faster than the years peeling backwards outside the window, grief over lost perfection he cradled briefly, joy for honest bonds soon reclaimed. Jackson's sights swirled dizzyingly until at last coalescing into opening his eyes to familiar kitchen scents Christmas morning with family laughing gently again. He froze in disbelief to find this long-past moment resurrected which he relished initially before tampering further. Bittersweetness swelled inside Jackson realizing the risky reset worked beautifully based on beloved voices sounding less strained again. Even 2 days back the watch dial showed reliably, sparking Jackson's tearful relief, its power held just enough left to grant his greatest wish now for selfless restoration. Feeling 40 pounds lighter without timeline troubles weighing down his empathy, Jackson soaked up subtle beauties the previous morning held sacred before any distortion. He promised silently to let natural reality unfold now without assuming editorial authority. "Jackson, you haven't touched your waffles, time machine got your mind again?" His dad teased kindly, stirring Jackson from misty-eyed reminiscing. Knowing this offer unconditional family understanding wiped clean any divisions or damages from days since erased, Jackson smiled fully present. "Yeah Dad, it was quite a ride, but I'm fully back down to earth again now thanks to you guys." He hoped they heard his deeper meaning, that after utilizing the stranger's magic in misguided ways, only anchoring again in their grace and grounding could reveal Jackson's true north again. Their gentle laugh told him perhaps the significance slid subtly, but blessings understood intuitively as memories filled now with simply savoring special small moments playfully trading syrup and grinning over Hannah's reindeer-adorned pajamas. For here is where Christmas worked its nostalgic magic needing no enhancement, weaved from thousand little threads of silly ritual, understanding, and a home-enishing love designed to take its inhabitants in. In awe Jackson recognized that this family needed no amplification in closeness when left to chart their course together. Within imperfections, their love composed its own poetic beauty never requiring a director. And this precious messy magic of being family emerged the message of Jackson's cross-temporal journey all along, when chasing fabricated joy so far outward that inward connection becomes obscured, deepest meaning still persevered where he began. Now Jackson understood the lone right wish this Christmas was for presents without forcing a perfect production falsifying their exceptional reality needing no improvement. Having round-tripped across the strings of time to treasure this truth, Jackson let gratitude wash over him just witnessing the ordinariness he once took slighted become extraordinary again. As if reading his mind, Aunt Francine winked reassurance she found him fully present once more. Jackson sighed relief this lesson landed by somehow granting himself and family's second chance at authentic holiday memories liberated from his selfish quest for idealized control. The rest now wrote itself intimately through a million little acts of grace that Jackson reveled in without directing. Perfection unveiled itself through patiently celebrating flaws and all. Chapter 8, Vanished Timepiece. Jackson awoke Christmas morning to dawn's rosy glow dancing across his bedroom, feeling lighter than air. The day before filled with easy joy and connection so treasured after his intense timeline tribulations trying to commandeer a perfect holiday by rewinding reality itself. Now with family bonds happily restored in the reset he triggered, Jackson almost forgot the strange watch's magic exempting his life from linear laws. Its power drove him radically off course at first seeking to erase their every imperfect moment. But epiphany revealed seeking control over others. Experiences ended only in separation while freely sharing life's spontaneous mix proved the truer magic he chased. Content now loving his family honestly through each unfiltered minute, the watch's disappearance failed to even register for Jackson initially on waking. He bounded downstairs where holiday music and enticing scents wafted cheerily to gather round the tree glittering with mystery gifts echoing family rituals so beloved. Seeing loved ones' faces aglow in dollar, Jackson knew no magic exceeding embracing this momentary abundance without trying to perfect what flourished freely. Settling onto the sofa beside Hannah passing cinnamon buns, she elbowed him playfully. No wearing that watch device to sneak any gift hints brother. Only then did Jackson pause realizing his wrist now felt naked without the timepiece recently ever present while navigating tangled crosscurrents of time. Instinctively his hand reached to pocket where the watch often hid too while subtly undoing unwanted moments. But his palm only met fabric now with the mystical keepsake clearly vanished sometime in yesterday's final temporal loop resetting reality's trajectory. Strange mixed emotions swirled in Jackson realizing the watch mysteriously disappeared bringing his paradoxical journey full circle. Its powers posed greatest danger and gripped tightly controlling outcomes to save his fantasies. Yet releasing rigidity and expectations is what enabled Jackson to recover wisdom and connection so cherished. In surrendering finally his anxious chasing of fabricated perfection, space opened for freely appreciating beloved imperfections as the holiday's true gifts. Like winter trees. Turning bare to welcome next season's rebirth, releasing the empty image of ideal control cleared ground for truer meaning to take root simply being present through life's organic flow. His family's infectious enthusiasm broke Jackson from philosophical reminiscing about the enigmatic watch's fate. It lives on right here in my heart, he realized with gratitude for its lesson in liberating them all to create this holiday now together unencumbered by external pressures. Soon laughter and chatter filled the cozy living room as carols played while his parents smiled approving everyone's gifts with joy exceeding extravagance. Jackson kept watching his wrist unconsciously, feeling occasional phantom vibrations where the guide watch once glimmered promising to showcase life's most precious gift, each freely chosen moment before time's tide sweep them away. Its ultimate magic became revealing the greatest gift in life already surrounded him if only released from self-critical constructs that Christmas required any external enhancing. As much as Jackson relied on its power unsuccessfully commandeering perfect reality shaped for others, true perfection shone by valuing how beautifully loved ones sculpted bonds on their own loving terms. Now with deeper wisdom awakened, the Swiss watch's disappearance completed Jackson's surreal spherical adventure ultimately back to starting point, but now with widened eyes truly noticing the glorious gift reality presented without adjustments necessary. By learning to embrace life's marvelous imperfections exactly as they organically unfold, the holiday spirit flourished most vibrantly through cherishing this family with no reason to be perfect, except unconditionally loving each other across all seasons of growth and change. Though the watch disappeared, it left wisdom eternal as Jackson's enduring gift. By getting caught up in anxiety trying to meticulously shape reality or relationships to rigid expectations, deeper damage risked severing the ties that bind. But relaxing into acceptance allowed understanding richer meanings awaiting behind surface illusions once desperately controlled. Like blowing Zen sand patterns into non-being after admiring their ephemeral glory, peace prevailed by believing intrinsic beauty always awaits rediscovery in life's magnificent chaotic design revealing itself freely moment by cherished moment. Chapter 9, A Parting Gift. In the golden glow of Christmas morning melting into nostalgic afternoon, Jackson basked grateful among family immersed fully in the meaning he had chased unsuccessfully by trying to commandeer a perfect holiday through magical manipulation of time itself. Ironically, only in surrendering control was the ultimate gift revealed, embracing unconditionally these messy beloved bonds already weaving their exceptional magic freely without requiring editing or external enhancement. Laughter floated light and blessings abounded simple as the passing hours gathered Jackson's clan together whole, playing games, sharing generously, dancing to tinny carols. No bestowing of flawless moments through supernatural powers compared to this, bear witnessing ordinary togetherness hallowed by love. No role Jackson assumed dictating this day's destiny could exceed family writing the perfect script already just by holding space for each other gently across life's vibrant chaos. As dusk dimmed the glowing windows, Jackson gave thanks for the timeless reminder that no ultimate temporal authority existed beyond accepting here and now in its fully imperfect glory. Yet wistful fascination still flashed occasionally towards his now vacant wrist which once harnessed stunning power to bend reality's constraints, for better and worse. He pondered the watch's fate once guiding him wildly astray before illuminating true north again in surrendered presence. Had disuse drained its magic entirely? Or perhaps some principle requiring its relinquishing as lesson fully learned? Joining his family in donning jackets and scarves to head out caroling seemed cure enough for philosophical tangents, as Jackson soaked up their contagious festive spirit flooding the quiet suburban streets with song. Truly no image existed more quintessentially Christmas than his parents' arms wrapped round each other's waists, his sister proudly holding the family songbook inherited across generations, longtime neighbors spilling from bright-lit doorways offering hot beverages and off-key accompaniment under wizardry of gently falling snow. Time may reveal its hidden secrets someday, but for now this shimmering scene fused all magic the season promised into reality at once. As the merry caravan paused for rest halfway, Uncle Jonas doubled over suddenly with a harsh coughing fit that frightened ever-anxious Aunt Francine into fruitlessly searching her many coat pockets for long-lost oils. But Jackson felt only profound flash familiarity at the sight of his uncle so afflicted. Rushing over through the flurry to help, Jackson was met with astonished eyes as Jonas withdrew an item from his jacket causing relentless coughing. There glinting under falling flakes in Jonas' palm rested the vintage watch, dial still ticking faithfully as if never missing a beat across its supernatural travels. Stunned joy and clarity crashed over Jackson at once beholding the precious timepiece again which sparked his fantastical misadventures through distorted Christmases. He should have guessed only his family's most notoriously playful jokester uncle could mastermind this special delivery designed expressly to test Jackson's wisdom at wielding absolute power over holiday reality's run amok. 1,000 revelations spun dizzily as Jackson grasped the watch gingerly from Jonas' palm. This cherished uncle had uncovered the mystical heirloom somehow, recognizing Jackson reached age when its magic could gift insight into life's elusive clockwork, if engaged patiently. Giving the watch openly would rob growth required in discovering oneself ready to consciously shape time's continuum for good. But letting the enchanted tool manifest anonymously on its destined receiver's journey empowered Jackson claiming authority over relative realities at play. Holding time literally his hands, young Jackson walked path from naive tinkering to earned enlightenment himself, guided subtly by loving mentor who bestowed the ultimate secret, embracing fractured beauty ever flowing through life's imperfect design. Overwhelmed by depth of this gesture, Jackson turned watch over to reveal again its cryptic engraving alongside etched initials revealing creator's lineage. J.B. Of course. His own middle namesake, late Uncle Jasper Beauregard, endowed this timepiece before passing as an instrument shepherding next generation's wisdom. Speechless, Jackson looked into Jonas' glistening eyes reuniting modern lineage. The watch returns rightly to its family line. Now you're ready as guardian, no longer slave to manipulating its power, Jonas spoke gently. Jasper himself appeared in my dream beseeching this watch as a teaching across dimensions. By secretly granting you mastery over moments, yet wrestling consequences untethered, you grasped life's essential lesson of surrendering control to gain holistic vision. We cannot play God splitting timelines to serve singular views, Jackson replied humbly, watch's symbols suddenly clearer. I was trapped seeing only rigid ideas of what should unfold until broader truth revealed flows I blocked in trying to orchestrate some false perfection. Jonas nodded smiling. Exactly, my boy, the greatest gift being fully present allows. What magic rivals that amongst loved ones this night as time stands exquisitely still. The family grouped round them as snow danced silvery spotlights all through the quiet streets imbued with nostalgic magic. No further words needed among those whose bond transcended all boundaries mortal or cosmic. Jackson stood immersed in winter's silent sanctity, letting revelations settle from his circular journey across the watch's arc. In fearful chasing of life's beauty believed fleeing, he nearly missed the greatest beauty timelessly awaiting behind each moment's curtain, right where his heart dwelled all along. As carols rose again on their lips swaggering homewards, Jackson knew ultimately time could never be divided as past and future tethered fluidly through life's every precious breath. Moments themselves proved the meaningless illusion, while special awareness flowered continually, even accessing multiple traversals of reality's byways. This Christmas Eve catapulted Jackson strangely ahead, now in wisdom and gratitude if not Earth years numbered, while mysteriously returning him right back where he began, but now with vision expanding eternity layered through illusory minutes parsed out numbered days. When the destination made clear is always the present duration of steps taken with those we love most. The revived watch in Jackson's pocket ticked on like tangible heartbeat, binding human experiences beyond superficial perception of minutes marching regimented. Each clock's hands cycling from policies of ages past revealed mortality's dance with infinity. Time's cytoplasm carrying their essence ever forward until it stands still once more this night as families gather interwoven. And the watching stars themselves cascade, mirroring their own ancient light in Earth's crystallized water, falling gently to hush all barriers imagined separating their timelessness from this ever exquisite now. Chapter 10, Christmas Renewed. Trudging homeward bound under gently falling snow, Jackson walked in thoughtful silence, trailing behind his family's cheerful chatter. One hand absently caressed the magical watch, returned to him now that its full reality-bending powers were laid bare. The other tenderly gripped his Uncle Jonas' shoulder in grateful camaraderie for the loving wisdom he bestowed, entrusting Jackson this watch not as mere plaything, but a tool for unlocking vital truths transcending ordinary boundaries of time and self. Its easy magic could have trapped Jackson forever, seeking godlike dominion over family celebrations controlled like a petty puppeteer. But sacrosanct mastery shown only once surrendered to trust life's messy innate poetry. By clinging so tightly to orchestrate some polished fantasy of seasonal cheer out of sync with family's authentic being, the meaning itself slipped away like trying to trap snowflakes unmelting. In releasing fearful chasing of rigid ideals, Jackson found truer holiday spirit rushing back in through cracks beautifully imperfect as kin he cherished. Weaving their loud familiar banter and off-key carols now like holy choir, affection swelled Jackson's heart to bursting at how perfectly this family portrait shone, absent tampering or filters for impossible ideals. Blemishes banished existed only in his mind, once demanding homogeneous holiday havens tidy and bright as a storefront display. But genuine joy burst uncontained through their messy humanity he now witnessed with wisdom transcending years. All perfection pursued tomorrow ignored the greatest gift this cozy Christmas night offered in abundance already, simply embracing his people mid-becoming. As Jackson crossed the glistening threshold into home smelling pine fresh from hours spent decking its aged halls appropriately bright, something released at last within his spirit, recognizing manipulated fantasy pale and hollow next to intimate reality awaiting celebration without judgment. Dropping heavy garb and heavier concern for controlling this family into his ideal reflective glory, Jackson quite literally felt years of strain unclench his shoulders and catch in his throat. Tears suddenly spilled down fresh cheeks as he turned sheepish towards beloved faces, surely seeing him emotional volcano erupt in the foyer. But meeting their visages all flushed festive from crisp air and caring camaraderie, not a shred of concern shone at his abrupt vulnerability. Only crinkling smiles of knowing welcome, opened arms to envelope Jackson snugly into affectionate pile where he spilled painful epiphany awakened on strange psychic roads this night. That sometimes wisdom takes back roots home, yet we arrive right where we should. Oh my dear heart, the season's magic moves you like autumn winds these years. Aunt Francine spoke softly, ever dramatic yet now accurately labeled his catharsis. Uncle Jonas and both parents recounted their own turbulent teen years, flooding Jackson's ears with patient love, reassuring growing into wisdom's skin, often itchy and tears shed before pride shed, carved straightest pathways shouldered together. Even little sister Hannah squeezed his hand in kindness far exceeding age while passing token napkins from her elf apron. As tears slowed to trickle reflecting under glow of tree light steadfast, Jackson marveled how this family bore eternal safe harbor, holding space for individuals emerging. No judgment cast for feelings cast outward from inner storms, snow flurries accepted impermanent yet each crystallizing its singular beauty. Soon the fizzy warmth of cider passed rounds kindled familiar cheer, as if all events prior this night now brushed aside to allow sacred reunion. Laughter over mishaps and debates on recipes perfectly imperfect washed winter's cold away. Jackson basked in mentorship display from uncle's silly yet speaking meaning layered for next generation's coded hearing. Ancient carols sprung new depths almost palpable to Jackson suddenly as centuries of family sitting circled round echoes resounded familiar bonds beyond physical trappings of dates calendars mark. In the end, Aunt Gertrude always got her medicinal splash of brandy, admitting rules unbend for holidays. Even shadows seemed to whisper, home is where they have to take you in, with silhouette tree boughs blown askew outside. As hours grew affectionately late, their clan retired to crackling fire, sending sparks literally and imaginatively aloft toward dreams soon delighting upstairs in slumber. Jackson lingered last, staring pensively into those glowing embers as if portal linking past lineage and future mold now in his young yet old soul. Footsteps sounded softly behind him, but Jackson sighed, relaxing into his mother's gentle presence rather than stiffening as he did across the strange tenure of this longest night now victorious. Alicia squeezed his shoulder without word, for none required any longer. Then after a pause she laid gentle palm over Jackson's own, still clutching symbolic watch talisman guiding his epic adventure inward and back. Jackson knew then she sensed somehow its unbelievable properties which shook worlds literal and perceived, ultimately all for good given form in love's strange currencies. I think your grandfather would be proud. Alicia spoke softly toward flames still dancing bright against their sight growing weary. Papa always told such magical tales when we were young. I used to believe them real, then doubt when years made me jaded. But childhood truths have ways of finding our doubting souls again when time makes ripe for revival. Her voice trailed into crackling sparks aloft as Jackson saw anew this family's bewitching initiation, welcoming him unexpectedly back to their hallowed rituals of a faith beyond religion, where love itself conjured realist magic as defender against storms or spotlights. And this truth the soul remembered, though years imposed worldly rhetoric otherwise, that inside each was still the child nurtured best through patient listening by those who came before. Jackson knew then across generations came mentorship, subtle spark passed behind playful words so easy to dismiss as aging ramblings until life suddenly stoked those embers aglow again. What manifested as mystical heirloom watch outside in was all along encoded guidebook for inheriting resilience within. For time eroded only the costume of self, while essence crystallized further. Gaining facets from light only tested through darkness dared. As last log split in shower of golden shards inside hearth soon to dim alone, Jackson understood why this crazy destiny designed as his family's legacies converged tonight. Not for glory some vainglorious holiday display trumpeted from without, but sacred resurrection of faith nestled within, valuing most the imperfect blessings of simply being present where love's abiding magic ever shone. No fanfare awaited discovery except private peace retaking residence in his once fearful heart, too busy chasing external validation to notice internal kingdom long crumbling from survivors' neglect. No more, the throne regained now solely for the one who showed him clearest this day what Christmas means. First guest welcomed again, child residing eternal with remembering eyes illuminating all temporal facades. Soon Jackson knew he would share incredulous accounts with kin of unexpected mystical heights and depths unveiled behind such innocuous season celebrations taken for granted since youth. Tales would undoubtedly adapt mythical edges in their retelling years hence, though present truth already defied believability enough. Only missing now was the watch talisman flashed, sparking inception of Jackson's journey, alas vanished as quickly as shooting star drops mystery compulsions from heaven. Yet Jackson felt solemnly to his core timeless understandings grew truer sages than mere metal and glass, ever professing mastery they cannot share beyond self. For true magic revealed lay no external spirit conjuring party tricks, but the courageous choice embracing imperfect loved ones despite fear of chaos. There Jackson found guiding star and compass both, receipt for travel when bull maps spoke only foreign tongue. Family became codecracker for life's indecipherable road signs so often bypassing logic. And the lonely void once facing frontiers solo, suddenly filled by those making crooked most manifest. At long last Jackson knew highways ahead held no need for manipulation magic controls, when instead he launched forward wrapped in the loving grace those past, present and future lights entwined shine brightest. Where he celebrated their unvarnished presence through all lenses fogged. And wandering ceased strangled by striving when home welcomed without condition, if only he arrived seeing that spark meeting him halfway buried in ember he nearly let fade as childish fancy. Now watch dissolved to ash no longer needed. His heart's true guardians revealed by winter fire's forgiving flame. The end.